So you're thinking about moving to Portland and you might want to live in the city. Well, in this video, we're going to show you what that might look like as far as how the city is laid out, what are the differences between some of the different areas. All that starts now. Hey, what's up everybody? This is Paul Clem with the Home Team Brokers coming to you from Portland, Oregon. If this is your first time to our channel living in Oregon, make sure to subscribe and hit the little bell to get notified every time we drop a new video. And we get people reaching out to us who are relocating or moving to the Portland area. We love to help, and if that's you, give us a call, send us a text, shoot us an email, or click the link in the description below and schedule a Zoom call with us. Either way, we would love to help with your move to Portland. All right, so I'm going to transition here to my map in 3, 2, 1. All right, so let's get right into this here. So looking at a map of Portland from a bird's eye view, you can kind of see how the Willamette River running north and south splits the west side and the east side. So that's pretty straightforward. You also have Burnside, which is right here. So there's East Burnside and West Burnside, which separates north and south. So what that leaves us with is 4 primary quadrants in the Portland area. You have Southwest Portland, Northwest Portland, Northeast Portland, and Southeast Portland. You can see that, each of these quadrants has a little bit of a different size, a little bit of a different kind of geographical layout as far as, proximity to downtown and how things are laid out overall. There's also this St. John's, Arbor Lodge, Kenton Overlook area. This is considered North Portland, so that's what a lot of people call the 5th quadrant. Kind of a smaller area up here. We'll talk more about it. And then most recently, you have South Portland, which is right in here. It's just kind of a small sliver south of downtown, has its own directional address now. So used to be Southwest Portland, part of Southwest. Now it's just South Portland. We'll talk more about that too. So let's get into this. First, we're going to start with Northwest Portland. So Northwest Portland is a really unique area. You can see that its size is definitely a lot smaller than some of these other quadrants, some of these other areas in Portland. Primarily, the majority of this area is taken up by what's called Forest Park, which is the largest inner city park in the country, or it's right on par with Central Park. But there's hiking trails and biking, and you can go for runs up here, take your dog. It's a great time. And then really, the rest of Northwest Portland, where people are going to be kind of living, working, playing, all of that is going to be in this section right here, where, of course, you have the Pearl District. If you've researched Portland at all, the Pearl District is a really popular area, some of the best restaurants in the city. There's a ton of high-rise condos in here. So this is a really desirable area. There has been a little bit of an exodus in recent years with some of the unrest downtown, but things are definitely turning over and getting back to normal. Super cool area to hang out. It's a place, my family and I go all the time. You also have this waterfront area on Nadeau and Chinatown. This is a little bit of a rougher spot, so kind of, from about 12th, in east, in this Chinatown area, not a lot of living, there's some bars, clubs, things like that, but, it's probably not a place where you'd be looking for your home search. If you want to live in the city, the Pearl District's going to be where it's at. Slabtown, all of this is newer development, so you have a lot of apartments, a lot of younger people, some condos in there, some really great restaurants. They put in a New Seasons, see right here, and then it just started to kind of blow up all around this. So, this was all very industrial, just vacant blocks, in this kind of industrial area that has been really developed even just over the last 5 years. Nob Hill, Northwest 23rd, super popular. Once you get up to kind of here east of 405, these are all going to be more residential homes. So down here in the Pearl District, you can't really tell on the map here, but these are some high-rise condos, buildings, things like that. Nob Hill, Northwest 23rd. These are all residential houses, big, historic 120-year-old homes, a lot of Victorian-style homes. Really cool neighborhood up in here, and you're just steps from your doorstep to some of the best restaurants in the Portland area. Really cool neighborhood. And then you have up here, more up in the hills, you have like Arlington Heights, which I guess is Southwest Portland technically, but you have Hillside, Kings Heights, up into the West Hills a little bit. This is going to be multi-million-dollar homes. Pretty fancy area, and not as commercial as some of these areas here in Northwest. But Northwest Portland, very desirable, pretty expensive when you look at things like price per square foot. But if you really want to live in an urban setting, you can't go wrong, because now if you look just south here, you have Southwest Portland, which is probably the most unique area when it comes to Portland proper and having a Portland address, because you have downtown Portland, and this is kind of the majority of downtown is here in this southwest area. You have like Portland State University down here. This is where all your kind of big buildings and businesses are. If you kind of go south and west, get up in the hills here. So you have Washington Park. This is where the zoo is, the Japanese garden, the Rose Test Garden. Really cool place to go walk around, spend an afternoon. But as you get south here, you start to get up into the hills, and then here you can kind of get up and over the hills into these true Southwest Portland neighborhoods. So like Hillsdale, South Burlingame is in here somewhere. Yeah, these are going to be areas with a lot of 100-year-old homes, older homes, really cool neighborhoods. And then as you work your way west, you get into some of these neighborhoods that have a lot of really cool mid-century style homes. You do get a little bit of that in here, kind of up from Terwilliger a little bit, and up by Wilson High School, or rather Ida B. Wells High School now, and Multnomah Village as well. You're going to have like some 1940s bungalows, but then you start to touch the city limit here out to the west. A lot of really cool mid-century stuff. And you do get some older homes as well, but this area has so many awesome parks, and these parks aren't just like laid out on a couple of city blocks. You look at like Gabriel Park, for example, rolling hills. You have half of it is this really wooded area, and then you have kind of the baseball fields, a huge playground over here. You have the Southwest Community Center, where you have basketball courts and a gym and a great pool. So there's a lot of other parks in Southwest Portland that have this feel. Gabriel Park is definitely the biggest. You can get into this area near Ash Creek. You have Woods Park, a lot of hiking trails in there. Marshall Park, probably my favorite. Really cool neighborhood park, just surrounded by residential area. And then, you walk down the hill down into Marshall Park, and you're in the forest. You can see all of this wooded area here, and then it's connected, Marshall Park, down into Tryon Creek State Park, which is incredible. South of Tryon Creek, you have Lake Oswego. You have this area called Dunthorpe, which is a kind of a really, really nice upscale area. But there's a lot of variety in Southwest Portland, and Southwest Portland feels to me a little bit more suburban than anywhere else in Portland. So if you want to be near downtown Portland, if you want to be near some of the other Portland neighborhoods that have so many great things to do, but you want a little bit more of a laid-back feel, a little bit more of a suburban feel, Southwest Portland is going to be a really great area to look. And if we just hop east over into Southeast Portland, I've always thought Northeast and Southeast Portland have a lot of similarity as far as the different types of neighborhoods that you can get. Southeast Portland, I think, is quintessential Portland. All of the culture and things that you kind of hear about, maybe see in like shows on like Portlandia, you're going to get so much of that in Southeast Portland. And in particular, a lot of consistency with some of these really cool kind of urban but residential neighborhoods west of 205 and probably east of about 12th, or this is Grand and MLK right here, and this is going to be 12th and 11th. Everything inside 12th and 11th here on this east side starts to get pretty commercial, pretty industrial. But down here on Water Avenue, you have access to a lot of cool restaurants. There's some bars down here. This definitely feels like it could be the next Pearl District with the way it's turning over. Breweries and coffee shops. It's really pretty cool. There's some there's some co-working spaces, but then you get into kind of the heart of Southeast Portland here, and really kind of from south to north, you see these kind of main arteries going through east-west, and all of these streets have like strips of restaurants, bars, coffee shops, all that stuff. So you can see like here, Woodstock is a really cool area, which is right next to Reed College, which is in here. Around Reed College, like Eastmoreland, you have some of the coolest homes. I think it's really a hidden gem as far as Portland proper neighborhoods go. There's a few neighborhoods that are like it. So Eastmoreland, and then you have like Laurelhurst, and then you have Irvington. We'll talk about that. But this area is really cool in here. And you start to touch the north side of Milwaukee, which Milwaukee is kind of Southeast Portland light. Milwaukee is definitely a little more affordable as far as the median home price than some of these areas. So Milwaukee could be a really cool area to end up if you wanted to be in some of these more urban residential type neighborhoods in Southeast Portland, but maybe you wanted to stretch your dollar a little further. But I mean, you just kind of go north here and you can't go wrong. I mean, Division Street, you can see it's just lined with apartments, restaurants, bars, coffee shops, shopping, retail shops. There's so much to do there. And then Hawthorne is probably like the OG Southeast Portland neighborhood. Definitely kind of a little bit of a hippie feel in this area. And this stretches, for quite a ways. I mean, it really kind of starts down here around, 20th or so. And then just keeps going really all the way until you get up to Mount Tabor. And Mount Tabor, another really great Portland park. You can see all these hiking trails. If you get up to the top here, or even as you're climbing up, biking, whatever it is, you start to look west, and then you can get these sweeping views of downtown Portland. Mount Tabor is really cool. And you have some neighborhoods over here, like South Tabor and then Montevilla. Really kind of underrated, under the radar neighborhood, a little further from downtown, so your dollar does stretch a little bit further there. Generally, generally the closer you get into downtown and right into the heart of some of these Southeast Portland neighborhoods, the more expensive it's going to be. So yeah, we talked about Hawthorne. I mean, and again, you can just go up. Belmont, really cool area. Stark, has a restaurant bar district, and then you get into like Laurelhurst Park here. So you can see East Burnside. This is the dividing line between south and north. So everything north of East Burnside and West Burnside is going to be a northern quadrant. In this case, it's going to be northeast. But this Laurelhurst area, well, let's pop over into our northeast side. So you can see northeast, like southeast, stretches pretty far east. A lot of what's considered some of the more desirable kind of true Portland neighborhoods are going to be inside of I-205 here, and really inside of 82nd. That's going to be the case in southeast as well. 82nd, 205. You kind of get a little bit of a different environment, different atmosphere. The further you go east, you start to get into Gresham here. So if we're talking about kind of being close into the city, again, kind of that urban residential feel, that's a good dividing line, to kind of base that off of. But again, this Laurelhurst neighborhood, so you can see, everything is pretty much laid out on a grid, north, south, east, west. But look at Laurelhurst. it has these kind of curved streets, and just a lot more character, tree-lined streets, with these old growth trees. It's really cool in here. Definitely going to be a little more expensive as far as the median sale price and the average home costs. But if you're looking to be in kind of a really nice, quiet neighborhood, but surrounded by some of these more urban areas, Laurelhurst is a great place to end up. And then again, in Northeast, you have these different neighborhoods, these different kind of districts like you have in Southeast, where you have kind of this main stretch of bars and restaurants and shops and things like that. Hollywood, definitely one of them on Northeast Sandy. So this will take you out all the way to the airport. This little stretch in kind of the Hollywood district, really cool. You also get into near where the Moda Center is and the convention center. So this Lloyd district is really just kind of an extension of downtown, where you have a lot of office buildings. There's actually like a little mini skyline over on that side, and it doesn't really get talked about as a part of downtown Portland, but it definitely is an extension of that. But off of this Lloyd district area, you have, if my computer will load here, you have Irvington, Alameda, Grant Park, all of this area in here. Super nice. I mean, you can see all of the trees lining the streets. You have really big, wide streets. You have old historic homes. You have cool styles like Dutch colonials kind of mixed in there. So it's really unique. And again, that, this area all kind of feels similar, where you have Irvington up to Alameda, Grant Park. Alameda is cool because you can go up Fremont and off 33rd, and you have this little area in here where you have some restaurants and bars and things like that, which is really cool. And then Northeast, again, I mean, you can just keep going north. You have these areas like Vernon, Alberta in particular, where Alberta, you can see ton of restaurants, bars, things like that. Really desirable area, really cool. In fact, I'm not sure if they still do it, what happened with COVID, but they used to always do Last Thursday, which was like basically a street fair here on Alberta. And there was a time actually where they shut the street down, for like a 15-block stretch through here. And it was wild. I mean, you would see like people on unicycles juggling bowling pins that are on fire, and street vendors and people dancing and having a great time. I know at some point eventually they stopped blocking off the street because the people who actually live here didn't really like that. There's people wandering into their yard and parking on their property and things like that. So definitely understandable there. And then we start to creep over into North Portland here, actually, and we'll pop over to a different map. But you can see where the line is here, North Williams. So North Williams, North Vancouver, really cool corridor here that is really kind of built out quite a bit in recent years. And in particular, this stretch, this Boise ELEETE neighborhood, probably about a 15-block stretch of Williams and Vancouver, at least about a 10-block stretch here. I mean, ton of great restaurants, some of the best restaurants you can get in Portland, a lot of great bars. It's a really cool place to go out and eat and have a good time. And there's also through here a lot of big apartment buildings and condos too. So this is a really cool, unique stretch that definitely feels new, kind of has its own character in that way. It's a little bit like, which is probably one of my favorite, if not my favorite area to hang out in Portland, which is North Mississippi. Again, you can see all these restaurants and bars. There's a ton of great shopping. This stretch of Mississippi right here is awesome. I would say this would be the one area if somebody was visiting Portland, like if I had friends coming to Portland and they said, where should I go out? What should I do? I would say go to North Mississippi. Place is awesome. But there is a similar feel here between Mississippi and Vancouver and Williams. This area is a little bit newer and not quite as much to do. This area is a little more established. And I mean, again, you could spend a whole weekend there. You could spend, 2-3 nights there, just bar crawling and trying different restaurants and eating out and things like that. So you have this peninsula here, which is all considered North Portland. Again, this is kind of like the fifth quadrant or the forgotten quadrant. And Vanport is an area. You can see there's a lot of water here. This actually was its own town called Vanport at a time. I think back in 1947, this whole area flooded, and basically everybody had to move out, and now nobody lives there. It's just these two golf courses at Heron Lakes, and then Spivey Lake and Smith Lake. So there are some areas around here where you can like bike around these lakes. I think you can like paddleboard and things like that. So being in North Portland, you do have access to a lot of water, you see, which is pretty cool. You are close to Vancouver, so, maybe if you work in Vancouver, have friends or family there, that's a lot more accessible. And I'm telling you, this traffic, the commute coming south in the morning and the commute going north in the evening during rush hour is definitely the worst commute in the city. So keep that in mind for sure as far as where you're going to be living and where you might be looking for a home. I know when we were looking for our last home, we were looking in this Arbor Lodge area. Found a few places, didn't end up moving there, but really cool neighborhoods in here. Definitely a lot of character, very unique. You can see, and it's really kind of like anywhere in the Portland area, you see all the green kind of lining the streets and, green that people have on their properties. And you can also see that, there's a lot of parks mixed in, to these different neighborhoods. But again, like we talked about Southwest Portland, these are parks with big forests and hills and things like that. These are more like just kind of on your grid, which is more typical city living. Peninsula Park is beautiful, Arbor Lodge Park, and then moving over into like this St. John's Portsmouth area. So you have a lot of different parks kind of smattered throughout. Pier Park is great. This is a place that a lot of people in Portland don't really know about or go to, but this area in here is all wooded. So you can see it's really cool getting in there. There's a disc golf course there if you're into that sort of thing. It's definitely one of the more unique parts in Portland, and it's right there in St. John's. And so you have this St. John's and Cathedral Park area. So I think, this area right in here, kind of down Lombard, this is really considered kind of downtown St. John's. If you look at a map, it says St. John's here. So this is all kind of an extension of the same area. But in this area right here, it's kind of a world amongst itself. It has a unique feel to it as far as just the buildings and the architecture. It's a really cool little kind of downtown area that, you're so close to Portland and, downtown Portland. You're obviously in Portland, but it's kind of its own self-sustained neighborhood or area, more so than some of these other neighborhoods you get in Northeast Portland or Southeast Portland over here. These are great too, but they do all kind of blend into each other. They all feel more similar than they do different to some extent. But you get up here, into St. John's Cathedral Park, and it really just feels kind of like really its own place. University of Portland is up here, so right down here along Willamette Boulevard. And this stretch of Willamette Boulevard is incredible. There's neighborhoods and in particular homes lining Willamette Boulevard. And if you look south from these houses, from this area, you see the skyline of downtown Portland. So even if you don't end up living over here, this is a really cool drive. This whole area is really fun to hang out. Great coffee shops and bars and things like that. And your dollar might stretch a little bit further for what you get, being kind of such a cool, kind of hip area, very unique. Your dollar might stretch a little bit further than it would in some of these northeast and southeast areas, in particular areas that are kind of in from 60th, in from Mount Tabor, or kind of inside or around Cesar Chavez, which is 39th. This can get pretty pricey in here as far as price per square foot, but you're paying for the amenities that this area has. Again, there are at least half a dozen little bar and restaurant districts just kind of right in here that you can walk or bike to. And so up into some of these areas of Northeast Portland into North Portland, price per square foot, again, you might get a little bit better of a deal. And still, you know, being in St. John's, being in Northeast Portland, you can shoot right down to Southeast Portland or some of these close-in areas in Northeast Portland. For that matter, it's easy to get over to Northwest. Southwest is a little more elusive, you know, because you have I-5 is really kind of the only thing that connects. Otherwise, you're kind of fighting through some of these windy roads. You can see Southwest Portland's really not quite on a grid like some of these areas over here. It's going to be a lot more urban residential mix over here. Again, this feels a little more suburban, and then this is kind of true urban living. You're basically in the city. So, hope that was helpful. And we get people reaching out to us who are relocating or moving to the Portland area. We love to help. And if that's you, give us a call, send us a text, shoot us an email, or click the link in the description below and schedule a Zoom call with us. Either way, we would love to help with your move to Portland.